Discovering the four main archetypes with my mentor took nothing short of 3 years of all day, every day, 7 days a week obsession as they revealed themselves and became clearer and clearer. And the full enormity and the full power and potential of archetypal wisdom began to reveal itself was the outcome of tens of thousands of hours of absolute obsession, discussion, inquiry, and interrogation. And I say this because it helps point to the fact that they are incredibly difficult to discover. As soon as you're told them, you understand it with every fiber of your being and you see it everywhere. And what arises in my clients and the participants of the work we do is, how did I not know this? It is so obvious now. How did I not know? How did I not see this? It's been staring me in the face for 30 years. And I think the answer is in the degree to which our natural archetypal leaning, and I believe that is in our DNA, that our natural archetypal leaning shapes an absolute view of the world. If you are born, as I was, with a natural leaning into the lover/sheep realm, my worldview is absolutely created by that. When I mean absolute, it's not a strong enough word. To the degree to which every single thought, interaction, reaction, observation, navigation, and progress of my life is shaped by that worldview. And now I'm talking about you listening. I'm proposing that everything that you deal with in your life is completely and absolutely shaped by your natural archetypal leaning, to the degree that it is likely that you've had relationships and are in relationships right now where people don't make sense to you and you cannot even conceive of why they are behaving the way they are behaving, because your worldview is so absolute. You are baffled that anyone could behave and react differently to you. And you're smart and well-read and listening to this, and you're engaged in your life and you are utterly baffled. And I think that's the answer. Our implicit values and beliefs are formed by this archetypal leaning on a DNA level. And it shapes our psyche. It shapes everything regarding interpersonal relationships. And then, of course, it impacts everything beyond that. And we are blind. And we often wake up in a dark wood, lost. And it explains why marriages and committed relationships are so difficult, even for kind, well-meaning, well-read, benevolent, decent people that want to do right by themselves and the people they meet today. And I trust that that's you listening to this. You want to do right by the people that you love and the people that you meet and the waitress and the bus driver and the person walking down the street. And yet we enter into relationships with people and we become baffled by them. And then we do not interpret their language and their behavior accurately, because they, more likely than not, are living inside an absolute, total worldview that is not the same as yours. And it goes much deeper than what I'm proposing now. This is the simple, short version. But if you go a little bit deeper, what you'll realize is each one, therefore, has its own righteousness. Each archetypal leaning has its own aspect of judgment, its own aspect of righteousness, and it has its own offendable nature. And yet we're trying more often than not to have a relationship with somebody that has a totally different worldview. They are offended by different things. They are reassured by different things. They are righteous and judgmental about different things. And more often than not, they are righteous and judgmental about the way you respond and handle life. And if you've ever been in a committed relationship and you're listening to this, you'll know probably that you've had experiences, almost every fight or breakdown that you had with that significant other, it kind of went the same way, did it not? If you're honest and look back, it's kind of the same fight every time, wasn't it? And yet you probably cannot dissect and decipher what was going on. Well, this material explains all of that casually, easily, which is a very brave thing to say, but it's true. I work with people for years, and one of the things that people say regularly is, oh, you've just explained every fight I've ever had with my partner. What is going on? How have you just done that on the morning of day one? How have you just explained every fight I've ever had with my husband or my wife or my partner? Because the vast majority of fighting and breakdowns are archetypal in nature, and they're explained by our archetypal differences. And if that doesn't encourage you to look further into the work we do here, then I think nothing else probably will. I'll finish this segment by suggesting or inviting you to consider what it might be like to reduce the fights and disconnections and irritations you have by 90% or more, what that might be like. And because it really is what happens. There are some, I think of them as unnecessary challenges that we have to deal with. And then there are the challenges that we must deal with that are directly linked to our maturation and our growth. The problem is, if we are using up all of our patience and goodwill and tolerance for ourselves and our partners with the unnecessary breakdowns, there's not enough in the tanks, in the wells, to deal with the really important stuff that we need to process and deal with as we grow in life. What this material does is it helps dramatically reduce the unnecessary solvable challenges that are just mostly translation errors from archetypal differences colliding in the night. And I think it's the greatest act of love you can provide for yourself and others is to remove the vast majority of your confusion and the corresponding breakdowns that follow. I think it's the greatest act of love of all, actually.